Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. We begin tonight with the ASEAN Summit, now underway in Kuala Lumpur, where leaders are tackling some of the region's toughest challenges, from Myanmar's ongoing crisis to global trade tensions. And while ASEAN leaders are united in their diplomatic approach to trade, another pressing issue for the region dominated discussions today, the long-standing tensions in the South China Sea. And the news starts now. We begin tonight with the ASEAN Summit, now underway in Kuala Lumpur, where leaders are tackling some of the region's toughest challenges, from Myanmar's ongoing crisis to global trade tensions. Take a look. Malaysia, as this year's ASEAN chair, is leading efforts to keep dialogue open, even with Myanmar's military junta and armed opposition groups. The goal? To foster direct talks and find a peaceful way forward. Notably, Myanmar's junta chief has been excluded from ASEAN summits since the 2021 coup.
We are thankful for the spirit of centrality and the fraternity among ASEAN member states in being able to come together to forge a common front in dealing with these challenges, including the recent initiative or pronouncement on unilateral tariffs from the United States.
On Myanmar, ASEAN leaders have taken a new step. An informal advisory group led by former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been formed under Malaysia's chairmanship.
As for Myanmar, we have been able to take positive steps within the formation of an informal advisory group for Malaysia, that's ASEAN chair for 2025. I must thank all leaders for giving this tacit approval for the setting up of this informal group under former Prime Minister Dr. Thaksin Shinawatra.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim also emphasized the importance of quiet diplomacy in building bridges, even fragile ones, between conflicting parties.
Quiet engagement matters, and this small and the bridge may be fragile, but as they say, in matters of peace, even a fragile bridge is better than a widening gulf. I strongly believe in the fortitude and staying power of ASEAN to withstand the headwinds and weather the storms of the challenges and uncertainties facing us.
Amid global market volatility and slowing growth sparked by recent U.S. tariff threats, ASEAN leaders are seeking broader international engagement. Anwar Ibrahim has even written to U.S. President Donald Trump to push for a U.S.-ASEAN meeting.
Consensus achieved by the foreign ministers in Langkawi early this year, I have taken the liberty also to write to President Donald J. Trump to seek his understanding to organize a U.S.-ASEAN meeting, which means we observe seriously the spirit of centrality.
Tomorrow, ASEAN leaders will meet with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and counterparts from the Middle East as they continue to navigate a turbulent global landscape. President Bongbong Marcos Jr. today threw his support behind a key stance adopted by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, regarding global trade. Speaking at the 46th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, President Marcos strongly backed ASEAN's non-retaliatory approach towards the United States tariff policies. President Marcos stated, "We commend Malaysia's leadership in convening this special ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting and welcome the consensus to avoid retaliatory measures. This measured and unified approach upholds ASEAN's commitment to dialogue, diplomacy, and a rules-based multilateral trading system." His remarks come just a day after the critical ASEAN Economic Community Council meeting. There, Council Chairman Tengku Datuk Seri Utama Zafrul Tengku Abdulaziz reiterated that ASEAN member states have explicitly chosen dialogue and cooperation, pledging not to impose retaliatory measures. He added that this prudent stance has already averted escalation and preserved the foundation for engagement between ASEAN, not just with the U.S., but with other major economies as well. This unified approach follows the U.S.'s earlier announcement of a suspension of tariffs on goods from ASEAN, which took effect on April 2nd. And while ASEAN leaders are united in their diplomatic approach to trade, Another pressing issue for the region dominated discussions today, the long-standing tensions in the South China Sea.
The other issue, of course, is the ongoing negotiations for the code of conduct in the South China Sea, which, of course, both sides, meaning China and ASEAN, are committed to finalize this negotiation by next year.
President Marcos Jr. today renewed his urgent call for ASEAN to take decisive action on the South China Sea. Speaking at the 46th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, the president stressed the need for a legally binding code of conduct in the disputed waterway. He stated this is to safeguard maritime rights, promote stability, and prevent miscalculations at sea. The South China Sea is a complex flashpoint with overlapping territorial claims involving ASEAN members like the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam, and as well as non-ASEAN parties, China and Taiwan. The disputes center on strategic features like the Spratly and Paracel Islands and the Scarborough Shoal. Prior to departing for Malaysia, President Marcos emphasized his desire for a peaceful resolution to these tensions, particularly with China. And this call comes as confrontations in the contested waters have escalated, with the Philippines recently condemning aggressive actions by China, including water cannon attacks and shadowing of vessels. Meanwhile, Southeast Asian leaders signed on Monday a landmark agreement that sets out a 20-year vision for regional integration for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The ASEAN 2045, Our Shared Future Declaration, signed during the ongoing ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, outlines a long-term roadmap aimed at fostering peace, prosperity, and unity across the region. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim described the agreement as a defining chapter in ASEAN's journey.
Today, ASEAN marks a defining chapter in its journey of regional integration with the adoption of ASEAN 2045, Our Shared Future. In 1967, our founding members pledged to bind themselves together in friendship and cooperation, and through joint effort and sacrifices, secure for their peoples and for posterity the blessings of peace, freedom, and prosperity. Today, we renew that solemn promise, not as a tribute to the past, but as a living covenant with the future. The future we seek must rest on foundations of sustainability and inclusion. ASEAN's integration must be genuinely people-centered. That means closing development gaps, raising the standards of living, and investing in the human spirit and potential of all our citizens. This shared blueprint gives shape to that belief. It is a vision anchored in realism, animated by resolve, and made possible by trust.
Malaysia is chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations grouping this year. The signed document is then presented to the ASEAN Secretary General Kao Kim Horn. Staying in Southeast Asia, where France is looking to boost its influence and ink some major deals. French President Emmanuel Macron was in Hanoi this week, making his first official visit to Vietnam in nearly a decade. The trip aimed to bolster France's ties with its former colony, coming at a time when Vietnam is grappling with the threat of significant U.S. tariffs following President Trump's recent threats of 50% duties on EU goods. During the visit, France and Vietnam sealed several key agreements. These included a major deal for 20 Airbus planes, along with cooperation pacts on nuclear energy, railways, Airbus Earth observation satellites, and even Sanofi vaccines. President Macron also used this opportunity to emphasize France's support for freedom of navigation, a crucial issue for Vietnam given its ongoing disputes with Beijing in the South China Sea.
En effet, alors que la Russie poursuit son agression.
While Russia continues its aggression against Ukraine, we have agreed on the importance of achieving a strong and lasting peace, with an objective that begins with the implementation of a ceasefire. But we also mentioned this when talking about the South China Sea, that we share the same desire to defend international maritime law, in particular the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. France has constantly reiterated this commitment, that of freedom of sovereignty, which is at the heart of our Indo-Pacific strategy. It is also at the heart of the centrality role that we acknowledge in ASEAN.
Au cœur aussi de la centralité que nous reconnaissons à l'ASEAN.
Both nations also highlighted a reinforced defense cooperation, with Vietnam's President Lu Quang Quong mentioning information sharing on strategic matters and stronger links in defense industry and cybersecurity. The visit is the first stop on President Macron's Southeast Asian tour, which also includes Indonesia and Singapore. But beyond the official engagements, even world leaders have moments that remind us of their human side. We turn now to a lighthearted moment that's captured attention on the world stage. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife, Brigitte Macron, were spotted sharing what appeared to be a playful exchange as they arrived in Vietnam. As the couple descended from the presidential plane in Hanoi, cameras caught Brigitte Macron appearing to gently nudge her husband in the face, prompting him to step back for a moment before both continued down the stairs together. The brief interaction quickly became a talking point online. Despite the viral moment, French officials insist it was nothing more than a light-hearted gesture between partners. President Macron's visit to Vietnam marks the first by a French leader in nearly a decade as France seeks to strengthen ties in the region amid global trade tensions. Supporters of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte gathered at Malivel for a freedom march calling for his release from detention.
Good day to Europe. We are here, Filipinos, with a common message, and that is President Duterte, the most beloved of all presidents in our history, should be freed. He should be freed, number one, because jurisdiction over his person was acquired by the ICC through kidnapping. The Philippine government did not comply with the Rome Statute in bringing President Duterte here to The Hague. The Rome Statute is clear. He should have been brought before a local court to face extradition proceedings. They did not do so because they know that, number one, that the ICC no longer has jurisdiction and therefore no local court will order his extradition to The Hague. We believe that because jurisdiction was acquired in grave violations of human rights, then jurisdiction of the ICC should be decoupled. The court should declare that it has no jurisdiction because you cannot right what is alleged to be a wrong by committing another wrong. Eichmann is no longer good law. Human rights standards now demand that in order to dispense justice, any tribunal must completely be in compliance with existing treaty obligations such as the Rome Statute. The failure to present President Duterte before a local court also means that Philippine sovereignty was violated. Membership in the court is not compulsory. It is voluntary. Countries are free to withdraw from the statute, which the Philippines has done, and a preliminary investigation started 2 years after we had withdrawn, meaning there is no longer any jurisdiction.
The event was organized by individuals advocating for Duterte, who was extradited earlier this year to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He is facing charges related to human rights violations committed during his administration's controversial anti-drug campaign. There were initial concerns that the group might attempt to block the Utrecht Seban, but this did not occur. Around 1300, the group departed Malieveld and marched along Van Eyck-Medeland toward the ICC, where the demonstration continued with speeches and expressions of solidarity. Afterward, the participants returned to Malieveld via the same route. The protest remained peaceful and was monitored by local authorities. Now, to a development that could bring some relief to those very global markets. U.S. President Donald Trump has decided to pull back from his threat to implement 50% tariffs on imports from the European Union, at least for now. President Trump has delayed those looming 50% tariffs on EU goods, a move that comes after a direct conversation with European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. The initial deadline set for June 1st has now been pushed back to July 9th. Trump told reporters about the call.
She just called me, as you know, and she asked for an extension on the June 1st date. And she said she wants to get down to serious negotiation because I've told you specifically, but I told anybody that would listen, they have to do that. And we had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe June 9th would be, July 9th would be the date.
Trump had initially threatened the June 1st deadline out of frustration with the pace of ongoing trade talks. That threat last Friday sent fresh turmoil through global markets, causing stocks to skid. On Sunday, von der Leyen welcomed the delay on social media, emphasizing Europe's readiness to move swiftly on negotiations. President Trump also took a moment to clarify his broader view on the purpose of tariffs, aligning with previous comments from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. We're not looking to make sneakers and T-shirts, and we want to make military equipment. We want to make big things. We want to do the AI thing with the computers and the many elements. But the textile, you know, I'm not looking to make T-shirts, to be honest. I'm not looking to make socks. We can do that very well at other locations. We are looking to do chips and computers and lots of other things. And tanks and chips, meaning ships, yeah.
While markets may welcome this backtrack on EU tariffs when they open tomorrow, global stocks have been roiled for weeks by Washington's often erratic policy making on trade. Critics argue that this constant uncertainty makes it nearly impossible for businesses to plan for the future.
Of course, we've got other tariffs potentially coming on things like pharmaceuticals. So there's more yet to come, and Trump seems to have Europe firmly in his sights when it comes to tariffs. I think, you know, from his perspective, one of the reasons he's doing this is because obviously, if you look at trade from different blocks into the US, exports from Europe are I think, the largest across the entire world. Of course, the deficit itself is not the largest. The deficit with the US and China is up there. But certainly in terms of total exports, there is a huge amount which goes into the US, and Trump wants to do something about that.
And now to the war in Ukraine. Overnight, Ukraine faced its most devastating aerial assault so far. Russian forces fired a staggering 367 drones and missiles at cities nationwide, killing at least 12 people and injuring dozens more. Now, the attack came as both sides prepared for a major prisoner swap, but the violence has only deepened calls for international action. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
This is what the night sky in Kyiv looked like as Russian drones flew over the city's skyline early Sunday. You can hear the explosions from the airstrikes. As daylight came, the extent of the carnage became apparent. The assault came as Russia and Ukraine prepared to conduct the third and final day of a prisoner swap. Both sides had agreed to exchange 1,000 people each. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the United States to speak out and condemn the attack. In a statement on Telegram, Zelensky said every such terrorist Russian strike is reason enough for new sanctions against Russia. On his way back to the White House after a weekend of golf at his New Jersey golf club, President Donald Trump denounced the Russian attack.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
When asked what he planned to do about it, Trump had this response.
We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Trump has taken a softer line on Russia and Putin, and that's something many Ukrainians can't understand. In Kyiv, 63-year-old pensioner Alina Tatarchuk says Trump should have a first-hand look at the Russian damage.
Ви знаєте, це нелюди, просто нелюди. They are beasts. I'd like Trump to see this. I don't know what kind of a person Trump is. Not smart, lost his mind. What's Putin doing? Can Trump really not see this? All the countries, can't they really not see what Putin does? It is not war. It's the destruction of a people. They are just destroying us. Russians are not looking at children, at no one. They just hit and hit. The drones were flying over us the whole night. We had no time to rest.
U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine Keith Kellogg called Sunday's attack a clear violation of the 1977 Geneva Peace Protocols. He called for an immediate ceasefire. So far, Russia has resisted calls by Ukraine and the EU for an immediate 30-day truce. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
And we're continuing our developing story on a dramatic legal and political battle unfolding in the U.S., one with far-reaching consequences for thousands of international students, especially at prestigious universities like Harvard. On Friday, the Trump administration took the unprecedented step of revoking Harvard's ability to enroll students from abroad, throwing the academic futures of thousands into uncertainty and sparking urgent questions about the future of global education in America. It was a policy that caused immediate shockwaves. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration moved to force current international students to transfer or lose their legal status. But later that same day, a U.S. judge temporarily blocked the highly controversial move, just hours after Harvard sued in federal court. The path forward for nearly 7,000 international students at Harvard alone, representing over a quarter of its enrollment, remains deeply unclear. The policy has certainly hit students hard, even if some say they were aware of the possibility.
It is definitely shocking and very uncomfortable for all of us, but we have to say that we prepared for this.
President Trump has been vocal in his criticism of Ivy League universities since taking office, accusing them of fostering what he calls anti-American, Marxist, and radical left ideologies.
Well, look, part of the problem with Harvard is that there are about 31%, almost 31% of foreigners coming to Harvard. We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We do grants, which we're probably not going to be doing much grants anymore to Harvard. But they're 31%, but they refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much because we have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there because you have 31% foreign. Now, no foreign government contributes money to Harvard. We do. So why are they doing so many? Number one. Number two, we want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay. Many will be okay, I assume, and I assume with Harvard, many will be bad. And then the other thing is they're very anti-Semitic. Everybody knows they're anti-Semitic, and that's got to stop immediately.
For many, this isn't just a policy change, it's a direct threat to their life's dreams. This anxiety is keenly felt by students like Yu Shuan Lin from Taiwan, who was set to attend Harvard this fall.
The path towards my dream is actually harder and tougher than I expected. There are so many uncertainties, and so that's why I think I thought that I could accept all the changes along the way as what we have gone through in the past half year. I kind of feel like really hit by it, and that's why I feel kind of anxious, but I really couldn't do much. Just wait and see.
The impact of this policy extends to even the most high-profile students. Princess Elizabeth, the 23-year-old future Queen of Belgium, has just completed her first year studying public policy at Harvard. But this ban could jeopardize her continued education. Harvard itself has fiercely condemned the administration's move, calling it illegal and amounting to retaliation. The policy has also sparked sharp criticism from experts.
So how is this going to impact Harvard? Immensely. Almost a quarter, 25% of their enrollment is international students. And Secretary Noem pointed out that Harvard is very wealthy and that they will be fine without this tuition to, as she put it, pad their endowment. So I just want to make clear that tuition dollars don't go into endowments. Tuition money is used for things like student aid, student programs, payroll, paying staff, paying faculty.
And the justification for the policy is also being called into question.
Right. So Secretary Noem, either in her letter or in a recent statement, has said, I'm not quoting directly, but that Harvard is a hotbed of dissent, of anti-Semitism, and it somehow harbors future terrorists, a threat to the security of the United States. This has absolutely no precedent.
The broader implications for U.S. higher education are also significant.
We're going to see, clearly what we're going to see is a massive drop-off in foreign students coming to the United States starting in September. But what's also going to happen is the students and the researchers that have been coming to the United States since the end of World War II are now being courted by France. They're being courted by Germany. They're being courted by Canada. They're being courted by China. Hey, why go to the United States? Those people are crazy over there. We will fund your research in France. We will fund your research in China. Come here.
A complex and evolving situation with thousands of students and the future of U.S. higher education hanging in the balance. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. From the federal buildings to the bustling neighborhoods of Washington, D.C., and even in nearby communities like Baltimore and Gaithersburg, the Care for Humanity event is spreading warmth and support. As rising costs make life harder for many, this initiative is a reminder of the power of community and the lasting impact of kindness. Take a look.
Washington, D.C., the U.S. capital, defined by its historic monuments and prominent buildings, including iconic ones that house the federal government's three branches: the Capitol, White House, and Supreme Court. It is also here throughout the ecclesiastical district of Washington, D.C. Mid-Atlantic that a series of significant events are happening within communities. In Washington, D.C., a Care for Humanity event aimed to distribute free food, care packages, and medical checkups to families and individuals in need. For Nelson, a grad student currently studying in the U.S. from Rwanda, he was able to experience a deep connection here today.
One thing that came to my mind is I saw love. I saw a church that really has the true definition of religion. I saw a church, again, a family that is really concerned about others, even strangers.
I am emotional, but I just put it under control, but I'm gonna cry. It's very helpful what we have. Well, I'm very happy here. It's very nice, warm, cozy atmosphere. It's like, it feels like home.
Even in Temple Hills, just south of Washington, D.C., guests were able to feel that same love extended by members like Tamika, who discovered the event happening the same day.
The spirit of community and family here has been really great. The camaraderie, the closeness, and just the level of care that has truly been shown to me, just from being out here for just a short while, has just been really, really amazing.
And this kind of endeavor only continued, reaching other places like Baltimore, Gaithersburg, and Waldorf.
We see the people struggle, especially when it comes to the rising cost of almost everything nowadays. And so when we have activities like this Care for Humanity, this shows that the Church of Christ, led by our Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, truly does care about the community, and that they also see the struggles of not just the brethren, but the world in its entirety. That even here in America, there are those that are striving to make ends meet. And as we saw in this activity today, anything that is given to them is truly appreciated. And they're so grateful to the Church of Christ that we have reached out to the community and helped in whatever way that we can. And so this truly does show the compassion of the church administration, and the Church of Christ to all of those that are truly in need.
As Care for Humanity continues to reach more communities, neighborhoods, and families, the more people see its mission and the motivation of Church of Christ members to always do good by impacting and changing the lives of people from all walks of life. Brother Tyler Worthen, U.S. Care for Humanity, special coverage.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, Amalma Angeles, thank you all for joining us. Good night.